Hey guys, welcome to Priceless B Movies. You know, one of my favorite movies of all time is 1971's A Clockwork Orange. And in that movie, whether you've seen it, whether you haven't, in that movie there's a quote where one character says about another character, he says something along the lines of, well, this person is no longer a murderer, but he's also no longer a person who's capable of moral choice. Now, I bring that quote into play here because this movie that I'm about to review for you is all about choice. It's all about the choices we make and how they affect other people, but it's also about the other people and the choices that they make regarding us. Would you rather? So Would You Rather is a neat little movie that was actually a request that was made to me. I hadn't actually heard of it. Once I looked it up on IMDb, I kind of got an idea of what it was, and I also saw the poster for it and realized that this is a movie I'd actually passed up at a video store a couple years ago because I thought the cover art was just kind of cheesy. But now I've seen it, I'm glad I have, but at the same time I'm not. The basic setup of this movie is fairly simple. Almost everyone at some point, if they've been on a road trip or if they've even been to a bar, has heard of the game Would You Rather. You know, you'll sit there with your buddy or whoever you're with and, you know, you'll say, would you rather see your dad naked or eat a large slug? You know, and it's just kind of like the idea being, well, neither of those options is something that really appeals to me, but if I had to make a decision, I would go with, you know, A or B. In this movie, Jeffrey Combs is this aristocrat who invites something like 6 or 7 people over for dinner, and he has offered them all so much money if they go along with this game. Basically, the one person who's left at the end of the night will get so much money and whatever they could possibly want from Jeffrey Combs' character. The game is Would You Rather. But the twist in this is that all of the choices are either you have to inflict some kind of harm on yourself or on someone else in the group. Now, if this sounds a little bit like the Saw movies to you, I can definitely see why you would feel that way given the description I just gave you. I think this movie has a very different feel, though. This movie's not quite so much about the gore and the actual acts of violence themselves, as much as it is about the personalities of the people involved and the attitudes, the psychoses, you know, kind of why they make the decisions they make. I think that's a lot more interesting, too, because what you have here is a fairly implausible plot line. You know, basically you have to ask yourself, why are any of these people even going along with this? And it gets, as the movie goes on, it gets harder and harder to accept why they're still agreeing to go through with what they're supposed to go through with. In some of the choices, you know, when it's, the option is, oh, well, you have to do this unspeakable thing to yourself, or this guy here will just shoot you and end your misery right now. A lot of the times, at least for me, it was kind of hard to imagine why anyone would continue the game if they could just be put out of their misery. But that's just me. The acting here is fairly hit or miss. I had no real problem with Brittany Snow. I'm not really that familiar with anything else she's in, but I thought she did a decent job here. The people who play the other guests are, you know, pretty decent too. Some of them have a lot more to do than others because obviously there's going to be the couple that, you know, are killed off fairly early. This does kind of irk me though because there isn't a whole lot of room for character development here. Half the people who show up, who are part of this game, you don't know any more about them by the time they're dead than you knew about them from the first moment you saw them. You don't know anything about them. Now, I'm not saying that I wanted a thesis on each individual character and a complete biography, but I would have been interested to know, like, the different backgrounds, like why this person is so desperate for money that they're here doing this, or why this person feels like they're willing to risk their life. I think that that would have made some of the film more impactful. Jeffrey Combs is pretty reliably good, but he's pretty reliably good in everything, and especially when it's a movie like this where he's generally the villain or the oddball or the wacko. You know, Jeffrey Combs, all he really has to do is just do his, you know, reanimator shtick, and it basically works no matter what the plot line is. He's a lot of fun in this movie, and he has a lot of fun with the part. Also, if you're a fan of the Fox show Gotham, Oswald Cobblepot himself, Robin Lord Taylor, shows up in this movie. And, I'm not sure if this movie came out too long before he was cast in that, but it wouldn't surprise me if I read somewhere that his performance in this somehow helped him get that role on Gotham. He's very much a similar character here. He's very sleazy, he's very arrogant, he's very cruel, but he's also kind of a little bitch. To the movie's credit, I like that even though this is a film that could be categorized as torture porn to some people, there's very little on-screen violence. As I said before, the movie is much more about the people committing these atrocities more than it is about showing the atrocities. It's not to say that there's no violence in the movie. This is a very hard R rating. There is violence. There are some shocking images and some shocking scenes, but nothing's gratuitous and nothing's really done for shock value. It really does seem like the movie is more about the dilemma of these characters and not about just pushing that dilemma in our face. Other than some minor details, the only thing that really bugs me about this movie, and it really bugs me about this movie, is the ending. That ending. Now, obviously, I'm not going to spoil the end of this movie for you, but oh my god, I don't think since High Tension have I seen such a great concept and a great, 80 minutes so entirely ruined by a cheat ending. And not only is it a cheat ending, but it's completely unnecessary. I want to know who the person is. What? I don't even think that this seems like something that the person who wrote the script wanted to do. I think this is something that someone at the studio pitched, like, oh, well, we don't want this kind of ending in our movie, so let's just throw this last bit in here that's gonna totally ruin everything that happened before. Like I said, High Tension does the same thing, and this movie does it too. I mean, by the time it got to that last scene of this movie, and I saw what was happening, all I could think is, are you kidding me? This scene doesn't even belong in this movie. There is no reason for this scene to be here. It doesn't build on anything. It is just there to make the audience feel like shit. And I'm not going to lie, that ending is bad enough to lower the rating on this film for me. I'm going to give Would You Rather 2.5 stars. I love movies like this that are psychological horror films, but that are interesting enough and where the script plays out in a way that there's going to be some twists that you don't see coming, and in a way where maybe this isn't as predictable as you initially thought, and you kind of have the rug pulled out from under you. I like movies like that. I like movies that make me think and make me wonder and, kind of question my security as a person. I don't like to always sit in front of a film and know exactly what's going to happen. I want to be shaken up if I'm watching a thriller. I want to be unsettled. And this movie does do that. But by the end of the movie, when you get to that last scene, I can't stress enough just how much that last scene ruined this movie for me. So that's my review of Would You Rather. Stay tuned. I've got some more reviews coming. And, also keep those requests coming. I love doing these requests. It's also a great excuse for me to check out some movies that I've never seen before and that I probably wouldn't see otherwise. So please keep them coming by all means. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Priceless B movies.